Hi, good evening. Welcome everyone to EduNation Global's new webinar. My name is Luisa Wojtowicz-Waga. I represent EduNation. And I would, of course, like to welcome all of you on behalf of me, Anna Popławska, and the whole team. Thank you very much for coming. I can see that quite a lot of you are already joining us. Yeah, I can see that Agnieszka is already doing what she probably knows what I wanted to ask you to just to say where you're joining us from. Agnieszka, I think I saw you on Tuesday in the evening in our Polish webinar. Just say if I'm not mistaking people. Okay, so we've got Anna from London, we've got Warsaw, we've got Krakow. Please tell us where you're joining us from. It's super, super, super exciting always. Okay, so today of course, we've got our friends from the Czech Republic, as always. Ahoy. And from Croatia, wonderful. Okay, so just to very, very briefly, the house rules. Our webinars are run typically, they take more or less 60 minutes. So you can expect that around 10 o'clock p.m. Central European time, time, and we've got people from Macedonia. Wonderful. We will be closing. All of you who have registered, you will receive the certificate of attendance tomorrow in your inboxes. Please, if you can't find certificates and recordings of the webinars, typically we unfortunately end up in your spam folders or trash folders, so like places that you would rather not want to see us in, but unfortunately, because we send a lot of emails, this is where we very often end up. Okay, and my favorite So What school is welcoming us from Canada this time. Holidays, wonderful holiday time. This is actually my last the English webinar, my last webinar before my summer holiday. Next Tuesday, I will have a webinar in Polish, but I am slowly approaching the time of my summer holiday as well. And we've got participants from Germany. Excellent. Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you and talking to you about a phenomenon called the speaking block, and we will be discussing how to overcome it. I think it is a phenomenon that is quite. It's not characteristic to any culture. Probably in some cultures it will be a bit easier to overcome. Me coming from Poland and from Polish culture, I know that in a lot of situations, Polish students have a speaking block. We will be talking about reasons in a moment, but Polish students tend to have a speaking block because I don't know for what reason, but Polish students would like to sound like native speakers. They would like to be mistaken less. And of course, it is quite difficult to achieve and probably unnecessary even to have such ambitions. But for Polish students, it is quite typical to be afraid of speaking because I'm going to make a mistake, because I'm going to be not sound too correct. Please let me know if you have got an idea or coming from your experience, why your students, or from your cultures, from your countries, why students may be afraid of speaking. I have got some ideas. One of these I already told you. We have got these ambitions that we want to be absolutely flawless. We don't want to make mistakes. We sometimes feel that if we make a mistake, a classmate or a teacher will laugh, or will the teacher penalize it. That we just we are afraid or ashamed of making mistakes. Now, another reason why students are not that willing to speak, or you ask a question, you want them to talk, and there is silence in the classroom, is that sometimes they do not have enough tools to, and by tools I mean they do not know enough vocabulary. They do not know, did not have enough grammar. We have not checked in the instruction phase if they have enough tools. So they may know what they want to say, but on the vocabulary level, on the level, they may not be prepared to speak. Mickey says that some same unnecessary ambitions. So Mickey, if I remember, you're from Germany. Unnecessary ambitions, sometimes bad experience from former classes. Absolutely. So if your students have had a teacher who in the past penalized them or laughed at them for or there was quite a lot of negative feedback because of the mistakes that they were making. They might have a problem because of these bad experiences, just as Mickey quite rightly wrote a minute ago. Agnieszka says that among her students is probably their perfectionism. Yeah, so the same reason. Veronica says the same here. Sometimes they don't have enough knowledge. That's right. Another reason that when I was thinking about preparing for this webinar, another reason that came to my mind is that sometimes they really, let's just think about it. Has it not ever happened to you? Sometimes they really have nothing to say. So sometimes there will be a topic that is uninteresting, or they have no experience in, or they really have no opinion about. So they don't say, not because they don't have tools and not because they're ashamed of a potential mistake, but because they really have nothing to say. Joanna says that students compare themselves to other students and they often feel worse, less correct, less fluent. Very good. From my experience, one of the reasons, obviously. And Agnieszka adds that they want to translate word to word from their native language. That's also, of course, might be a reason. Now, one more reason that I was thinking about was that, and it happens very often when you take over a class. There are teachers and there are classes that are not used to speaking. And I know that it may sound a bit bizarre what I've just said, but some teachers run lessons in a way that they do not expect students to speak. So the lessons are vocabulary oriented, grammar oriented, reading oriented, but they are not speaking oriented. So students are truly not used to speaking, and because no one expected speaking from them before. And as ridiculously as it may sound, I know that sometimes it is the case. And I remember when I have my own personal experience like that. When I was in secondary school, my first foreign language was English, but my second foreign language was German. We had two foreign languages in my secondary school. And my German teacher, for the first 3 years, she covered with us all grammatical aspects of German, all really. I don't think that there was anything left, and some vocab. And then in the fourth class, when we were just before taking our final matura exam, which is in Poland the final exam that you take when you finish secondary school, she sat with us and she said, "And now you can speak." And that's this. I hope that this kind of treatment is not that typical anymore. I hope so, but I've got my own personal experience of someone who covered everything in terms of vocabulary, in terms of grammar, and then she felt that we were prepared to speak, but speaking is a skill that needs to be taught from lesson one. when you know almost nothing until you are C1, C2, and it needs to be gradually developed with students. Of course, I don't feel the need to tell you this, but one of the reasons that your students may be afraid or ashamed of speaking is that maybe no one before, just like me with my German experience, expected them to speak. They were expected to fill out exercises, read, maybe listen, but not speak. Mickey, you have my deepest sympathy. All our grammar in 3 years. Yeah, that's right. But mind you, I later on I went through some quite intensive German lessons, and I'm quite a good German speaker right now, but not because of that one teacher. Okay, anyway, so now we covered this bit that I wanted to speak to you about the reasons. Now, why am I starting with this from the very beginning? I'm doing this because before we judge a student, maybe judge is not the best word, before we decide that a student is just, I don't know, the level is too low, or that the placement test went wrong, or that they're lazy. Maybe it is the best idea that the teacher can do is to try to decide what the real reason for this particular situation is. So by that I want to say it is good to speak to students and ask them. Maybe they will be able to explain to you why they are so unwilling to speak. Or maybe you can just test, is it the tools? Is it my preparation? Is it my instructions? Is it the background that they have? Is it lack of experience? Is it the fear of making mistakes? Is it the ambition to be perfect? And so on. And so on and so forth. Or maybe that it's just difficult because for some people speaking foreign language for a foreign language is difficult, and it is tiring for some people. So we will be discussing now until the end of our time today some practicalities behind these different aspects of not speaking or the speaking block. So I will take one reason that we just enumerated, and I will be discussing what we can do to overcome that block, to overcome the fear. Of course, these ideas that I have, for some of your students they will work, for other students they might be not enough. But a good idea is to try, always to try, and see what works with your students, and hopefully some of these ideas will work for them. So, what can you do? These are the ideas that we will be discussing today. We will be talking about hiding their faces. Of course, for those who are ashamed, we will be talking about personalization. For those who are not interested, we will be talking about creating motivating atmosphere, because really sometimes students don't speak because they don't feel motivated. They feel that the atmosphere in the classroom is judgmental, and they just don't want to function in an atmosphere like that. We will be talking about how to organize lesson programs and schedules so that your students speak 50% of the time, of the classroom time, which is very difficult. And we will be talking about appropriate exercises to age, to level, and also preparing presenting drilling. So the first reason that I will deal with, from the reasons that I enumerated a minute ago, is the tools. So do my students have enough tools to speak English to me? And the first level that I want to touch upon is the lowest level. So students who, if they don't speak, they have every right not to speak because their level is too low. And these students need to be from the very beginning need to be accustomed or made used to speaking English in the classroom. The rules that you set with them in your contracts should speak very, very clearly. This is the classroom in which we speak English. So the first thing that we do is we acquaint our students with the classroom language. So they need to know all those very, very, very basic expressions that we need in the classroom all the time from the very beginning when they are A1, A1 plus, A2, and so on. So they need to have a poster or a sticker somewhere in their copybook, in their notebook, with the most basic language, classroom language. And when they know that you expect them to use these expressions, you like, how do you spell? I do not understand. How do you say in English? What does something mean? How do you say something in English? How do you pronounce? Could you say it again? How do you spell? May I go to the toilet? All the most useful expressions that every single student needs, and you need to be extremely clear about it. I expect you to say it in English, even if you maybe don't understand the grammar of why exactly it is, how, what does something mean, or how do you, why does it do, why is it does. Students don't really need to don't need to understand it. They will at a point understand the ins and outs of why it's does, why it's do, why it is could, and so on. But at the very beginning, from the lowest levels, they don't need to understand it. The most important thing is that they learn it, that they know it by heart, and they are able to use it in the classroom, and you expect them to use it. So every time they want to say something in Polish, like "a proszę pani coś," so they say something in Polish, you say try to find it on the list and say it to me in English. So the general atmosphere and the general standard in your classroom is we do as much as we can to speak English all the time in this particular classroom. Now, continuing the topic of tools, you need to be asking your students to do a communicative exercise. When you expect them to speak, you need to be 100% sure that what you expect them to do is doable for them. I will make the slide a little bit bigger now for you. So the questions that I ask myself from when I prepare an exercise, and I know that I will be asking my students to say something, to express their opinions, to have a conversation. I ask myself, first of all, is this exercise doable for my students? So am I fair? Am I asking them, or am I expecting of them something that is doable for them? And some students, for some of your students, the expectations will be doable or will be achievable. And very often you will work in a mixed ability class. So we need to remember that our expectations towards different students in different students in one class may be different. We may expect something different from a group and something different from the second part of this group, because we will have stronger students, we will have weaker students. So the first question that I ask myself, is this exercise doable for my students, and which part of this class it will be doable for, this exercise will be doable for. So it is absolutely okay to give two types of instructions to two groups of students. If you have got mixed ability class, you will have, of course, we never ever name them lower level, higher level, or better or worse. It should be absolutely forbidden, but it is absolutely okay to have two types of expectations, two types of instructions. For the stronger students, a little bit different. You expect something else of them, and for the weaker students, something different. So this kind of equalizing instructions is probably not the best idea. Now, the second question that I asked myself is, have I instructed them in a proper way? And now, how do I know? Sometimes your students will not speak because they really have not understood your instructions. I quite often go to observe lessons, and sometimes me, being a very good English speaker, I listen to teachers giving instructions, and I myself don't know what I should do with this exercise. So a good question to ask yourself is, do they not speak, or are they, better said, are they not speaking, or are they not reacting? Possibly because the instructions that I gave them were complicated. So a good idea is you give instructions, and you check, but not check asking, do you understand? Because you probably know it. We don't ask this question. We don't ask the question, do you understand? Because the answers that you receive from your students, well, you may believe them, you may not believe them. They may say something, they may think that they understand, but they have not. So a good idea is either to ask a student to repeat the instructions, or to ask two students to model an answer. And by this reaction, you know that students have understood or have not understood. Now, so the next thing, have I given them a model? So sometimes it is better. So I can see that sometimes teachers will give instructions, and then we'll give these instructions again, maybe in a little bit different way, sometimes more complicated way. So probably a better choice is, instead of giving for the third time instructions just to be 100% sure that they have understood, is to give them a model, or to drill the answer from them, just to make sure that everyone really knows what's going on. And the last question that I ask myself is, how much language do my students need to do this activity, to be able to complete this activity, and what kind of language is it? So, and if I want to be 100% sure that everyone, not only the stronger ones, but also the weaker ones, that everyone remembers, I will tell them, okay, so before we do this exercise, let's just review quickly how, for example, if the exercise requires the usage of, for example, past continuous, I will ask them, so can you just quickly tell me how we build past continuous, what the forms are? So that just before this exercise, I know for a fact that they have reviewed with me the forms, and that more or less everyone knows. And very often I will give my students a list of 5, 6, 7 words on the board, written down on the board, and tell them, please, in your dialogue, in your conversation, try to use at least 5 of these. So I give them not only instruction, talk to your partner and discuss the last adventure that you had in the mountains, just spontaneous instruction. So instead of just giving them this instruction, I will tell them, and when you discuss, please use at least once past continuous in affirmative and negative form, and use at least 3 from the list of these 7 words. So by this, I make sure that, as much as I can, of course, that the language that they need, and what kind of language, has been reviewed before. So that this is these are my answers, or my suggestions to this issue that my students don't speak because they don't have enough tools. I need to make sure that the tools are there. Now, then come these students that will not speak, not because they don't have tools, but because they are afraid of losing face. And this is because as one of you quite rightly wrote a minute ago in the comments section, they have bad experience. Their previous teacher mocked them, criticized them openly, or the atmosphere in this classroom is that classmates laugh, classmates mock weaker students or worse students. So the first most important thing is, and those of you who have known me for a longer time know that I have got this absolute fixation called the contract. And I think that um, the more experienced you are, the more you appreciate the idea of contracting students and telling them what is okay and what is not okay in this classroom. So this is how I start. Of course, it is always a nice discussion. It is not never like this is not okay to do this or that. It is always a nice discussion, but I make sure from the very beginning that my students understand that in this classroom we are all in a learning environment, that everyone, including myself, everyone is learning, and that making mistakes is a part of learning, that it would be extremely difficult to learn if you don't make mistakes. So I also like telling my students that if you don't make mistakes, it means that you are in a bad classroom, that this class is not for you, because the fact that you make mistakes means that you are in the right place. If you don't, it means that you need to leave this classroom. Of course, I make it in kind of like a jocular way, and we laugh and smile and so on. But I want my students to know that mistakes are okay. And me, with my attitude to mistakes, I show them every time that when someone makes a mistake, I say, "Oh, this is a really cool mistake. I like this mistake. Thank you very much." I never mock it. And teacher behavior is extremely important, showing example, setting example in the classroom. If you like mistakes, if you appreciate students' mistakes, and you show it, you comment it you comment mistakes, correct them, give feedback, but not in this heavy way, but in saying, "Oh, this is so cool that this came up, because all of us have learned thanks to you." My students like this very much, and they always say, "Oh, anytime," because I thank them. I say, "Tomek, thank you very much, because thanks to you, we have all learned the difference between A and B." And then my students say, "Oh, you can count on me anytime. There will be more mistakes coming." So I'm showing with my attitude that it is absolutely okay to make mistakes. Also, sometimes I make a mistake. It happens to me. For example, I am not the best speller in English. I mean, not that I make so many mistakes, but sometimes I'm not sure. I will write something, and I'm sure this is happening to you too. I will write something on the board, and I will say, "Hold on, is this the way it should be written? I'm not sure." And I will ask a student, "Kasia, can you check quickly in your phone if I wrote it correctly?" And the student will check, and if there is like an O missing or U missing, it happens to me really quite often. Maybe this shouldn't, I don't know, but it happens. And as you can see, I'm quite open about it, and I'm also quite open about it to my students. I say, "Look, I have studied English, and I have been learning English for like all my life, and I'm just not sure about how to spell this. So this is really okay. This is really fine. So let's not get blocked by that." So and it never happened to me that a student said, "Oh, you are unprofessional because you don't know how to." Of course, it's not happening like every 5 minutes, but it happens. And I never try to pretend that, "Oh, this is not a mistake," that I'm flawless. If it's okay for me to make a mistake, it's absolutely okay for the students. I don't know if you like this attitude. If you want to say something about that kind of attitude, if this is acceptable for you, for example, just please let me know. um, so now about students, as I said about rules, I said about my attitude, but also if they are afraid of making mistakes, first of all, don't expect them. And you see that this might be the reason why they don't speak. Don't expect them to wing it. Don't expect them to improvise. Give them time to prepare. Give them a moment to, like, I will ask you a question and I will give you 2 minutes to prepare for this answer. So I just quickly read what Veronica says. I do the same. It is not a problem to admit you don't know everything, and you are learning from your students. Exactly, you are learning from your students. This is a very nicely written, Veronica. You are learning from your students, and I always underline this when I have learned something from my students. I will say thank you so much. I've learned this. Look what kind of nice environment we're building. You are learning from me, and I'm learning from you. This is so cool. And I really mean it. This is the most important thing. I really mean it. So my intentions, if you have got an intention, people feel this intention. So if your intentions are good, if your intentions are positive, and I say this, thank you so much. I've learned this from you. Thank you very much. So it's never ironic, never critical. And I think I have a feeling they appreciate it. Mickey says, I think that's a great mistake. Show that somebody's learning and improving. We all are. Lifelong learning. That's right, Mickey. This is it. This is it. Agnieszka, very nice, very interesting comment. After COVID, I was often lost for words. So my students realized it can also happen. So to that, absolutely. Absolutely. So they often had to suggest those words. Wow. Thank you for that comment. Very interesting. Okay, coming back to what I was saying. So we don't expect them to improvise. We give them time. But an extremely important point is I will ask my students, if I know that they struggle, I will say, okay, so I will ask a question. I will ask a question. I will give you 2 minutes, and I time this moment. So when I say 2 minutes, it really is 2 minutes. But I ask them, please do not write full sentences. Don't write like everything, because what this results in is that they read out the answer but don't say it. What I want them to do is quickly collect their thoughts, write down keywords, but not full sentences. And also, I ask them rather in those moments not to learn these utterances by heart. So just keywords. I will give them a moment. And a very important rule, this is kind of like classroom management rule, is when you have got mixed ability students, stronger students, weaker students, and you have an open question, you will say, I'll give you a moment. You ask everyone not to speak in that preparation time. So for 2 minutes, no one speaks, and then I will ask you. So if you nominate students, first of all, nominate the weaker student. And then nominate the strongest student. That's the role of classroom management. The explanation is that if you have a stronger student will quite quickly answer the question in the, unfortunately, most obvious way. That's how our brains work. If we are asked the question, the most obvious answer is the same answer for everybody. So, for example, if I ask you, so what is the opposite of black? You will say white. And everyone, that's how our brains work. For everybody, the first answer will be white. But of course, there are many opposites of black. Clean, Snow White, many options, and sometimes you will agree with this option, sometimes not, but many different options come to mind. And so if you ask an open-ended question to a group, and a stronger student answers and gives this most obvious answer, the weaker student will probably have nothing else to say. And now if you divert this order and you ask the weaker student first, he or she will give this most obvious answer, which will be a good answer. So for self-esteem, it's okay. And the strongest student will cope with this somehow. They will find a different answer. So this is the rule of how when you have an open-ended question. An open-ended question is a question to which it is possible to give many answers. So the rule is the first person you nominate is the weakest student, and then the strongest student. All right. Now the next group of issues that students may have is the language that we address or we instruct them with. Sometimes they will not speak because the task and the language that we speak to them, that we address them with, is not adjusted to their level. So I don't know to what extent this will be a problem for you. It is definitely a problem for me because I will have a group at A2 level at 9:30 a.m. and then C1 level at 10:30. And what it requires from me is that when I prepare for lessons, I don't really need to think that much about the language that I will use for my C1, C2 students because they will deal with whatever I say. But the A2 students, they will not. And I really need to think about it and plan my instructions. So, and I see that to open them up, I need to slow down and I need to plan my instructions better. I need to simplify my language so that they feel more secure. I even, with some teachers that I work with in my mentoring sessions, we were trying to decide which how to, or maybe not decide, practice the because it's not so obvious. I mean, maybe to you it's obvious, but to some teachers it's really not obvious. What kind of language we produce when we are on A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2 level. C2 is not a problem. C1 is not a problem, but the lower ones maybe. So what the exercise that we did, and you may try to do this kind of exercise just for your own benefit, was we took a sentence and we were trying to adjust the sentence to A level, and the question was, we'll make it bigger. The question was, or the sentence was about. No, it was a question about presidential candidates in the United States. Is XYZ a good candidate? And there was a name given. So I said to the teachers that I work with, so A1, we require just word level, A2, basic sentences, B1, questions, interaction, B2, longer, more attractive sentences. Of course, it's not very precise to say that something is more attractive, but I just wanted to see what teachers would come up with. And C1, rich vocabulary, more complex structures. And so this was the teaching development exercise, or kind of like consciousness really development exercise in, do I really know what kind of language I should be using when I speak, when I address my A1 students, A2 students, B1, B2, and so on. So for example, on the A1 level, the sentence was, XYZ is young, energetic, ambitious. On A2, in my opinion, XYZ is a good candidate because he is young, energetic, and ambitious. That was the suggestion from the teachers. B1, questions, interaction. Is XYZ a good candidate? Well, yes, I believe he is. For many Americans, he's ambitious and energetic. B2, longer, more attractive, and now we will see what more attractive means. If I were to elect the president, I would choose XYZ. I find him an ambitious and energetic presidential candidate. And C1, extremely complex and rich. Being given a chance to elect an American president, I would definitely go for XYZ. To my mind, and so these were the suggestions that teachers gave as for how to speak to students on different levels. So now your exercise, we don't have time for that right now, but you could try to look at your instructions and plan instructions, especially for the lower levels, what you will say, how in what a simple fashion, or the simplest possible fashion, are you able to address your students. And the theory is that you should address students a little bit over their level. So if you have students on level A1, your language should be A1 plus, maximum A2, and so on, and so it continues. So addressing students with C1 level or C2 level language who are A1, just beginners, will probably not help them open up. We are all the time speaking about the speaking block, the student speaking block, and how to overcome it. One of the ways is you simplify your language, you simplify the language of instructions, of explanations, and so on. Now, if you want your students to speak, they need to speak. That's like, if you want to, speaking is a skill, just like riding a bicycle, swimming, skiing. If you want to ski well, you need to ski. There is no other way. There is no way. There is no alternative way. If you want to be good at something, you need to do it regularly and quite often. Mastery, I've read somewhere, takes 10,000 hours. Mastery of anything. If you want to be a master of something or in something, you need to devote around 10,000 hours. So if you want to be, don't say it to your students, because they will, this is not going to be very motivating for them, I think. But having said that, if you want your students to speak, there is no other way, but they need to speak. With mistakes, without mistakes, in a simple way, in a more complex way. So what it requires from you is planning such a lesson that will give them a chance to speak as much as possible. And it doesn't mean that they need to speak to you. They may speak to each other. I used to work in a language school in which we had a rule, and I think it was a brilliant rule, that we promised our students that each student and clients will speak in every lesson minimum 50% of the time, of the lesson time. So it is not possible, if you have a class of 10, a class of 12, it is not possible to make this promise true if you just do plenary way of speaking. But by plenary, I mean just everyone, one person speaking at a time. So you need to have pairs, you need to have small groups, you need to organize debates, you need to organize this one-to-one with one-to-one, I mean teacher student, but with different students, while other students speak to each other. So all these interaction types are extremely important. Exchanging students is also quite important. Students don't like these exchanges. I mean, once they start speaking with someone, they want to stay, they like their chairs, they don't want to move. But ideally, and also for class relations, it is better to allow students, or make them, if not allow, make them change their partners quite regularly. So if you came to my lessons, if you came to observe my lessons, you would see people working with one another very, very, very regularly, most of the time, most of the time of every class, with me giving instructions, modeling and monitoring, and then giving feedback. And I try to withdraw as much as possible and give them time to speak. And I can say that in most lessons, this promise that 50% of the class time or classroom time will be devoted to you speaking can be made true, but necessarily a lot of students need to speak at the same time. So if I have 8 students, I will divide them into 4 pairs of 2, 4 pairs, 4 pairs, or 4 groups of 2. They will be speaking to each other at the same time, simultaneously, and I will need to monitor and listen to what they do and just make sure that everything is okay. And then I will ask them to do these kind of pair warm-ups, energizers. I will ask them, and just some ideas to prepare for every lesson one item of news, one small item of news, and each of students will prepare one item with one word, one new word, and then another student one item with one new word, another student one item with one new word, and then I make a group of three, and we have a 3 times 3, so 3 items of news with 3 new words, and then a different group will have different 3 items and different three words. It doesn't have to be 3 times 3, can be 2 times 2, can be 4 times 4, depending on how many students you have and how easily it is, how easy it is to divide them equally. Now, what is important is that we have got that routine, so that students know that whatever other homework I give them, one homework is always on, even if I don't give them any other homework. This they have to do for every lesson. Prepare one item of news, can be our local news, can be their regional news, can be international news, doesn't matter. One item of news and one new word. And then we've got this 3 times 3. I also asked them to speak for a limited time. For students who are not used to speaking, asking them to speak for 15 seconds will be a challenge. Then 20 seconds, maximum 30 seconds. And we have a game, and my students like this game very much, which is called an A to Z topics. I ask one student to start what do you do with alphabet? Enumerating the letters in alphabet in his or her head, and I say stop. And then a student says a letter that stopped when I said stop. So for example, letter D. And then I ask another student, give me a word starting with letter D. So for example, there will be a word democracy, or drawer, or to draw. And I say, okay, and now you have 15 seconds, 20 seconds to talk about democracy, to talk about, democracy is difficult, but to talk about drawing, to talk about, and so on and so forth. And this kind of warmer, my students like very much. And also, I do it very often when I have exam groups, because I feel that I need to get them prepared to have monologues. So this kind of speaking, even if I have nothing interesting to say, even if I have no ideas, I will speak about a banana for 30 seconds. I will speak about a pen for 30 seconds. I will speak about a glass of water for 30 seconds. And every lesson, and I can see that this brings very good results. I never start with long periods of time, like 1 minute or 2 minutes, because it really may be a huge challenge. Think about it. Would you be able to talk about banana for a minute? But 15 seconds, and then next lesson we'll make 20 seconds, and then slowly but surely we extend that time to the beginnings are difficult. At the beginning they don't really know what to talk about, but because we do it regularly, I try to do it in every lesson, especially the exam groups. They know that this is a routine. There is a moment in every class that you have just finished and one aspect of your lesson. One aspect, for example, grammatical, and then the next aspect that you will be teaching is listening, let's say. And between those two, there is this moment that you want your students to do something different, something energizing. And this idea with these topics A to Z or monologues A to Z is a very good idea. So Nicole Hill here has written that it's important to make it and I agree with you. Routine works miracles. I agree. So what you can expect is at the very beginning it is quite dry, like students don't really know what to do. They because, for example, no one has ever expected them to do this. But slowly but surely, next lesson in 2 weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time, they have no problem. You say, okay, are we playing A to Z? Then everyone knows what's going on. I just said, okay, hola, alphabet, stop, letter F, okay, letter F, and they give a word. One student gives a word, and then we go. So at the beginning, it takes a little bit longer time. After a week or two, once everyone knows what A to Z game is about, we just go down, bang, 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 and very, very, very quickly. It takes a minute and a half, and it brings back energy to your students' bodies and heads and mouths. And just remember not to have too high expectations about the length of this. At the beginning, give them 20 seconds. It's really enough. Then slowly make it longer and longer. Now I will tell you a little bit about discussions and debates. I see sometimes quite a lot of frustration on teachers' part, that they prepared a nice topic to discuss, and no one said anything, or no one had much to say, and something that on paper, when planned, seemed super cool, did not turn out so cool. Now, sorry, I'll just answer Mickey. How many students talk in A to Z in each lesson? Everybody speaks. So this is I do it. Thank you for that question. I think I did not instruct well enough. Everyone speaks. So I divide students into pairs, and so there is alphabet. One student thinks that the order of enumerates this order of letters. I don't even know how to say it better. I say stop. The letter is D. Someone says democracy, and then students in pairs talk for 20 seconds about democracy. Then we may have one more round, one more letter. For example, G. The word is grass, and the second person in the pair speaks for 20 seconds or 30 seconds about grass. So everybody speaks. That's the beauty of this exercise. It's not like one person speaks and 9 listen, doing nothing. No, I really, really, really don't like these kind of exercises when one person listens, one person speaks, and everyone is listening, saying nothing and doing nothing. So I'm not a very big fan of that kind of setup. I hope, Mickey, I managed to answer. Good. Thank you very much for answering. Okay, so now coming back to debates and discussions. So it is not enough to have a good topic. It is not enough to have a good topic. What you need is quite good preparation for the students and for yourself. Now, first of all, the topic that you choose, well, probably easier said than done, should be an inspiring topic. You may ask your students if the choice is okay. So say, okay, I would like us to talk about X, Y, Z. Do you think that it's a good choice? Would you like to speak about that? Or just try to eavesdrop, try to listen to what your students discuss when they are not in lessons, and then suggest a topic that you may be more or less sure that they will discuss. Now, I mean, the discussions about what is better, living in the city or living in the countryside, it may be interesting for 1 minute or two, but will it really inspire heated discussion? I'm not that sure. Now, what is important is before you ask your students to discuss a topic, prepare vocabulary, elicit vocabulary, give input, drill, make sure that they have enough vocab, that you have that there was retrieval practice, that you elicited the words from them. Prepare expressions for discussion. Again, drill them. Discussions quite often are about agreeing, disagreeing, agreeing up to a point, asking questions. Make sure that your students, before you ask them to discuss, they have a list of at least a couple of expressions that you will expect them to use in that discussion. Now, also a good idea is not just to give a topic to discuss, but prepare questions for discussion. So if I have a topic, I will have 10 or 5 or 7 extra questions if I see that this discussion is not going as energetically as I wanted it to. I will have extra questions, extra 5, 7 questions. And I don't know if you use ChatGPT, but right now I ask ChatGPT before every discussion, can you please suggest extra 7, 10 questions for the topic of, for example, living in the city or living in the countryside? And ChatGPT suggests these questions. So if on the preparation level, because I work with artificial intelligence quite regularly right now, and I really like it, because it makes the preparation much shorter. The chat suggests the question. So I just an idea how to make your preparation shorter. Now, sometimes or TWE would do its job. Yes, I think so. So a TWE, so another artificial intelligence application, let's say, that helps absolutely. All right. Now, sometimes I will definitely divide students into groups. One group will be for, one group will be against, and it is really not important. It is not important if their true opinion is for or against. Sometimes it is even better, just for the intellectual development, to to um, mm, to kind of discuss against your natural opinion. Sometimes I will be devil's advocate, and I will take a controversial, even if it's not true, I will take a controversial stand, and I will say some arguments which I don't really agree with, but just because I want to spark this discussion a little bit more. And sometimes I will just accept that an idea that I had for discussion is not that good, and I will stop. If I see that nothing works and they don't really want to discuss, I will just stop and go further. I will not push, as much as possible if I see that something doesn't work as much as I would like it, to. Now, what I would like to also, an idea that I would like to share with you, one more idea, is about hiding students' faces. Sometimes your students, as we said at the beginning, they will be ashamed of speaking. They will be afraid of what other students will think. And I remember I had a teenage class preparing for their advanced Cambridge exam, and they really did not want to speak, being on quite a nice level. And I came up with an idea that I will ask them to pretend they are somebody else. So they could be Joe Biden, they could be Arnold Schwarzenegger, they could be Beyonce, they could be Aristotle, they could be Harry Styles, they could be anybody from your culture, from your country. And it's good to have a picture. I remember I had a discussion between Angela Merkel and one of Polish politicians at that time. And so I had a picture, and the student was not herself or himself, but I said, I don't really care what your personal opinion is. You act as her or you act as him. And I saw that with that particular group, it worked. So when they were Joe Biden, when they were Arnold Schwarzenegger, when they were Angela Merkel, when they were one of the Polish politicians, it might be someone that is quite sometimes not the very popular personality, quite controversial personality. It is easy for them to open up. And in that, I'm not saying that it will work with every group that you have, but it definitely did the job in that group that I'm telling you about. The exams that they were, the mock exams, I remember one idea. I wanted them to take part in a mock exam, and they took their mock exams not as themselves, but as the person, the celebrity in the photo, and it was the best mock exam that we did in the whole of that year. So I saw that the hiding identity and hiding faces makes, of course, they weren't sitting with hidden faces. They were just holding these photos in front of them. So, and I, as an examiner, I also was not myself, but I had a photo in front of me. So my students really liked it, and I like this idea too. And also sometimes it is enough for them to have a gadget in hand. And I also tried this with one of my groups, that when they held a gadget that was associated with Anglo-Saxon culture. They had, it was somehow, I don't know, it's some kind of psychological mechanism. It was easier for them to speak. So I am giving you some ideas on what I did was, we had a Bobby's helmet, the English policeman's hat or helmet. I don't know if it's hat or helmet on. And it was quite funny, because the idea was that every time only that person speaks who has got the helmet on, and they spoke. So you can try to give this, also have try this idea out. Now, the last thing that I wanted to, because it's 10 o'clock, so I promise that this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to tell you, is that sometimes students don't speak, not because they're ashamed, not because they don't have tools, or the level is not enough, but because the teacher does not create space. There is too much teacher talking time, there is some mockery, and so on. So it is quite important, I think, and I like this kind of self-reflective aspect of our job, and I'm quite self-reflective myself too. After a lesson, I'm just thinking, maybe I haven't given them enough space, maybe I disturbed them, too much by my own speaking. So remember, limit your teacher talking time. It is a lesson is not the time for you to speak. You know how to speak English, they don't, so they should learn. And they should practice. Give them time to think. Don't be afraid of silence. Sometimes we are afraid of silence, and I understand it, of course, but I try to fight with this fear of silence. If students need to say something, sometimes they need to focus and they need to stay silent. Create as many opportunities to talk as possible in pairs, in small groups. Organize activities, divide them. Don't expect them to be speaking just to you, because there is nothing wrong, of course, with a student speaking just to you. But remember that every time one person speaks, the rest is silent. Every time you speak, the rest is silent. Everyone else in the classroom. So it is, even logically speaking, much better to organize, to ask a question and ask students to answer simultaneously in pairs. If you don't hear all the answers, well, you don't really need to. You don't need to correct all the mistakes. You will never correct all mistakes. So don't worry about it, and activate your students equally. Have a map of students and mark, has this person said something? Has this person said something? Has this person been activated today? And so on. And this map of students is a wonderful idea. Every time a student says something, so I'll tell you what I mean. You have got, for example, 8 students sitting. Can you see that? Yes, around the table. And every time one person says something, you cross, and then you cross, and then you cross, and you see, oh, okay, 3 people haven't said anything yet. So you say, all right, so now I will focus a little bit more on those who are quieter. But because you have that map with your crosses, it is easy for you to have control over who has been more or less active. So activate your students equally. Nicole wrote that she personally is mortified when asked to present her own opinions. What really works for fellow introverts is to present others' opinions. Absolutely. Oh, this is such a good idea. Yes, I'm not presenting. Thank you so much. I'm not presenting my ideas, but I'm presenting someone else's ideas. Yes, it's great. Great. Very, 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 very good point. Okay. All right. Listen, the time has come. So I would like to thank you very much. But before we go, I would like to tell you about, this is information that I am passing to you from Anna Popławska, my colleague from EduNation. And Anna would like to invite you to her newest course for English teachers, and it is just absolutely wonderful. And I would like you to have a quick look at what Anna has prepared for you. She, those of you who are from Poland, you know Anna Popławska very well. Those of you who are not, you may have met her in one of the wonderful training sessions that she's giving here in our webinars. So on the 30th of September, Anna's organizing, and this is like her flagship training called Spice Up Your Class, the ultimate teacher training for engaging lessons. I will show you just quickly the here it is. This is the address, and also, of course, as always, we have got a promo code for those of you who are live. So that's a gift from Anna. Anna says hi, by the way, to all of you. And now this training is live online, but you will get recordings for 10 months. And now maybe I will just quickly show you how to. Here it is. What you can expect. There will be 6 individual sessions here. Anna will be showing ideas on how to deal with technology. And she has got a lot of ready-made ideas that are super easy to adapt and suitable for different age groups. Anna is our Polish expert in new technologies, and she is just absolutely great. She knows all applications, all possible tools. The next session that in that training is going to be about transforming testing. So she will show you how to turn knowledge verification into something that is enjoyable for students, not punishment. She will be telling you in the 3rd session about showing you techniques to help students remember more for longer periods. Clever language tasks that inject humor. That's why the 4th one is called half joking, half serious. In the 5th session, there will be, the title is Mission Impossible. So she will be showing how to make grammar lighter, more fun, and more enjoyable. There will be exercises on ice breaking, utilizing gamification, and something is in Polish, unfortunately. Anyway, so this is the invite from Anna. The training is on the 30th of September, so quite a long time still. I think she has got a special promo code now for you, and I mean that there is a promo code SPICE, which I think works until tomorrow. Plus, there is like a pre-sale price right now. So I strongly recommend. Anna is wonderful, extremely practical. The ideas are great, and Poland just loves her. Polish teacher love her. So I hope that our international colleagues were also, and of course the training is in English. Okay, so again, strong recommendation from me about Spice Up, Anna's Spice Up course. Use the promo code if it's always a better idea to pay less if you are able to pay less. Agnieszka, thank you for endorsement, Agnieszka. So yes, Polish teachers really like Anna Popławska and her practicality. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you for today. I hope this was a good session for you. This is, I think, in the summertime, my last or last but one training session in English for EduNation Global. But we are definitely, but there is going to be more. So if you go on edunation.global, I will show you the edunation.global. I will just quickly show you how to sign up for the next webinar. So you go to edunation.global, and there is a place called webinars. You click, and you will see that the next webinar, this is mine, so it's already history. On the 17th of August, there is going to be Anna Popławska with top 10 apps for online teaching. As I said, there is no one better to talk to you about that. So thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miki and Agnieszka, and participants whose nick is Crow Talk. 17th of August, and then we're coming back at the beginning of the new academic year, new school year, with a new series of topics in both in Polish and in English. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Have fantastic holidays. I'm going on my holidays next Friday, so I'm really looking forward. Thank you, and I hope to see you very, very, very soon. And remember about Anna's training session, please. Goodbye.